Greetings from Bulverde, Texas, and the wonderful folks at the Red Roof Church. I'm Lee Harder, the senior pastor at St. Paul, wishing you God's blessings this weekend and in the week ahead. If you're in our neighborhood on Highway 281, north of San Antonio, this Sunday, I invite you to join us for worship at either 8:30 or 10:45 a.m. I promise. This is a fellowship of believers where God's word is heard every week. We'll be looking for you. I have to apologize for not having a blog last week, but I had a good excuse. I was in Minnesota performing the marriage celebration of our oldest daughter and her new husband, Dan Jones. Besides the wedding, we got to visit with the grandchildren. When one adds the wonderfully cool weather, it was a great weekend. We flew up Thursday and returned on Monday, and that's the problem. We flew. Since we don't travel much or take the vacation time I should and fly even less, I got talked into bumping our tickets to first class. It was only $280 per person. Now, I mention this not to impress, but to validate what I feel is an excessive amount for what was provided and experienced. I will explain. First, I have flown only 4 times in my life. The first being a trip from Minneapolis to Albuquerque in 2008. At that time, we had planned to fly coach, sardines in a can. But my youngest brother surprised me by moving us up to first class. It was great. We were separated from the peasant class, where we would have been, by a curtain. They served wine even before we got off the ground. Admittedly, it was in plastic cups, but that switched to real glass as soon as we were airborne. The seats were roomy, big, and even reclined. Not like they do in, economy, but I mean reclined. The food wasn't bad either. It was great. All was good in the world. Until we returned in economy, uncomfortably stuffed in the sardine can with no room for legs, shoulders hanging out into the aisle, and no booze or food. Small pretzels only. The next 2 times we flew, it was economy plus some years later, and I truly believe the airlines had miraculously achieved even less legroom and more of my shoulder into the aisle. I know the sardines had infinitely more room. The pretzels were the same, and the cost of the tickets had risen. Well, this time, I'm at a better pay scale. And since we don't travel, Karen, friends at church, everyone was urging me to go first class. So I did, both ways. The seats were a bit more roomy, kind of like the seats we had in economy years ago, back in 2008, before they shrunk. No booze, but we did take off at 6 o'clock a.m. And alcohol for breakfast just isn't my idea of how to start the day with a hearty breakfast. Breakfast is where my issues begin. Remember, we paid $280 extra for the first class amenities. After the moist, warm hand towel used to cleanse our hands, we were served breakfast. It consisted of 1 small oblong bowl of corn checks, a carton of 2% milk, 1 small blueberry yogurt, a cup of sliced underripe fruit, melon, pineapple, a few grapes, and a strawberry. and a semi-frozen croissant with a pat of butter and some jam. On the return flight, it was Cheerios instead of Chex, but otherwise the same. I realize this might sound like I'm whining, but $280 a head is a lot of money for me. However, I would have paid twice that for a restroom, a real restroom. Up to Thursday's flight, I have never, no, not ever, used a restroom in an airplane. I've always been able to go the distance. Unfortunately, I'm older now, inconvenienced by the normal challenges men my age face. I have to go more often. Add to that I take three pills, not one, that are diuretics every day, which controls my edema in my legs, but does require that I pay a more frequent homage to the porcelain deities available. So halfway to Minneapolis, I had to go. Nobody warned me what to expect. The use of the word small is a crime against the English language when referencing a restroom on a plane. This restroom was way past small to border on minuscule, microscopic, wee tiny. Yet people used it, so I thought I could too. Big mistake. First, one does not go standing like a man normally goes. It's impossible. I know. I tried. There's no room for your feet. I have a size 15 shoe, and the space in this closet, a reference which is casting an affront to closets everywhere, is only big enough for a much smaller, daintier foot. Because I was wearing jogging pants, I don't jog, they're just comfortable. I had to lower them to my ankles to go. I tried to kneel over the space provided, the bowl, but I couldn't because I'm too tall and the ceiling is curved. I'm just too much of me, period. The result is I wet my pants thoroughly. Then, to get my damp pants up, I ended up opening the door slightly, accidentally, I assure you, to offer a half moon to those in first class interested in looking. When I got to my seat, Karen tried to act as if she didn't know me. After a few moments, I mentioned to her that if the need arose that I should require the use of the aforementioned cubicle again before the completion of the flight, I would just pee where I was at. Fortunately, I didn't have that need. I love flying. Sarcasm. There's something special about paying $280 to have breakfast cereal and wetting myself as the memorable treasures of flying first class. On the return flight, I did not take my meds and did not need the use of the cubicle falsely labeled restroom, despite a 1-hour delay in getting off at Minneapolis. I never want to fly again. I was informed that I need to make sure the plane I take is a full-size plane and not the puddle jumper we ended up in. Who knew? So maybe I might, but I'll have to think real hard on it. In the meantime, it was a good visit with my daughter, her new husband, and the grandkids. And our girls, our 2 golden retrievers, were fine, wildly glad to have mom and dad back home, and did great thanks to our house sitter, Kyle. I hope my story is giving you a chuckle and revealed that pastors are just like everybody else. we have our days too. God bless, and talk to you again soon.